She walked into one of the most expensive stores in Manhattan, her worn-out shoes clicking softly against the marble floor. The saleswoman's eyes narrowed. Within minutes, security was called. "People like you don't belong here," they said. But what they didn't know, what nobody in that store could have possibly guessed, was who this elderly woman really was. Stay with me, because what happens next will leave you speechless. And before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss how karma delivers the perfect justice in this story. It was a crisp Tuesday morning in November. The kind of day when Manhattan's elite emerged from their penthouses, wrapped in designer coats and oversized sunglasses. Fifth Avenue sparkled with holiday decorations, even though Thanksgiving was still weeks away. Bellissimo Boutique stood as a temple of luxury fashion. Its glass facade reflected the morning sun like diamonds. Inside, crystal chandeliers hung from 20-foot ceilings. Handbags that cost more than a used car sat on velvet pedestals. This wasn't just a store, it was an experience. An exclusive one. Rosa Mendez was 68 years old. Her hands, weathered from decades of hard work, gripped a simple brown purse. She wore a floral dress, clean but faded, and comfortable shoes that had seen better days. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun. Everything about her screamed working class. She pushed through the heavy glass door, and a wave of expensive perfume hit her. Rosa paused, taking it all in. She'd walked past this store 1,000 times over the years, always on her way to clean offices in the buildings nearby. But today was different. Today, she was shopping for her granddaughter's quinceañera. Her eyes landed on a beautiful evening gown in the window, royal blue with silver embroidery. It was perfect. Isabella would look like a princess. Madison Pierce, the store's head sales associate, noticed Rosa immediately. Madison was 32, blonde, and dressed head to toe in the boutique's latest collection. She prided herself on reading customers the moment they walked in. And Rosa? Rosa didn't fit the profile. Madison whispered to her colleague, "Jennifer, watch this one. I don't think she's here to buy anything." Rosa approached the evening gown section, gently touching the fabric of a dress. It felt like water between her fingers. The price tag dangled, $4,800. She winced but didn't pull away. This was her savings, money she'd set aside from cleaning jobs, bit by bit, for this exact moment. Madison's heels clicked sharply across the floor as she approached. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sharp and professional. "Can I help you find something?" The question sounded helpful, but the tone said, "You don't belong here." Rosa smiled warmly. Her English carried the gentle accent of her native Guatemala. "Yes, please. I'm looking for a dress for my granddaughter. Maybe this one?" She pointed to the blue gown. Madison's eyes flicked to Rosa's worn shoes, then back up. "That particular piece is part of our exclusive collection. It's quite expensive." Rosa nodded. "Yes, I see the price. May I try it for her?" "She's about this tall," Rosa gestured with her hand. Madison crossed her arms. "Ma'am, our policy requires a credit card on file before trying on items from the exclusive collection." "It's store policy." That wasn't policy. That was Madison making up rules on the spot. Rosa's smile faltered slightly, but she maintained her dignity. "Of course. I have my card." She began to pull out her wallet, a simple leather one, cracked at the edges. Madison held up a hand. "Actually, you know what? I don't think we have that dress in the size you're looking for. Maybe you'd be more comfortable at Macy's? Down the street?" The suggestion hung in the air like an insult. Rosa stood frozen. She'd faced this kind of treatment before, decades of being made to feel small, invisible, less than. But today, it stung differently. This wasn't just about her. This was about Isabella, about honoring her granddaughter's special day. "I'd like to speak with the manager, please," Rosa said quietly but firmly. Madison's lips curved into a condescending smile. "The manager is very busy. Besides, I've already told you, we can't help you here. There are other stores more suited to your budget." At this point, other customers began to notice the exchange. A woman in a fur coat whispered to her companion. A man in an expensive suit shook his head and looked away. Jennifer, the other sales associate, approached Madison. "Maybe we should just—" Madison cut her off. "Jennifer, call security. We have someone who's refusing to leave." Rosa's eyes widened. "Refusing to leave? I just want to buy a dress." "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to exit the store," Madison said, louder now, making sure everyone could hear. "You're causing a disturbance." The humiliation Rosa felt was crushing. Her hands trembled. But she held her ground. "I am a paying customer. I have the money. I just want to see the dress." Two security guards entered the boutique, one tall and burly, the other younger and clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Madison pointed at Rosa. "This woman is refusing to leave. She's been bothering customers and touching merchandise without permission." Rosa's voice cracked. "That's not true. I only asked to see a dress." The older guard looked Rosa up and down. His expression was unreadable. "Ma'am, you need to come with us." "Am I being arrested?" Rosa asked, her voice barely a whisper. "No, ma'am. But you can't stay here. Let's go." Rosa looked around the store. Every face stared back at her, some with pity, most with indifference. No one spoke up. No one defended her. With tears threatening to spill, Rosa turned toward the door. The younger guard gently touched her elbow, guiding her. As they reached the exit, Madison called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Next time, shop somewhere more appropriate." The glass door swung shut behind Rosa with a soft whoosh. She stood on Fifth Avenue, surrounded by wealth and luxury, feeling smaller than she ever had in her life. Rosa stood outside the boutique, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. The cold November air bit at her cheeks, but she barely noticed. She dialed a number she knew by heart. "Mijo?" Her voice cracked when her son answered. "Mama? What's wrong? Are you okay?" The voice on the other end was full of immediate concern. Carlos Mendez was 45 years old. He'd grown up watching his mother work 3 jobs to keep food on the table. She'd cleaned office buildings at night, worked in restaurant kitchens during the day, and somehow still found time to help him with homework and teach him about dignity, hard work, and never forgetting where you came from. Now, Carlos was one of the most successful real estate developers in New York City. His company owned 15 properties in Manhattan alone. But he never forgot those early years, the struggle, the sacrifices, his mother's calloused hands. And 6 months ago, as a surprise for his mother's retirement, he bought her something special, a small stake in a luxury boutique she'd always admired during her cleaning routes. He wanted her to own a piece of the world that had always seemed out of reach. The boutique's name? Bellissimo. But Rosa didn't know that. Carlos had wanted to surprise her at the official shareholder meeting next month. He'd been working with the current owner to modernize the business, increase community outreach, and, ironically, make it more accessible to diverse clientele. "Mama, tell me what happened," Carlos said, pulling over his car. He'd been driving to a business meeting, but nothing was more important than his mother. Through tears, Rosa explained everything. The saleswoman's cold treatment, the made-up policies, the humiliation, being escorted out by security. She left out no details, her voice breaking as she recounted Madison's parting words. Carlos listened, his jaw tightening with each word. When she finished, there was a long silence. "Mama, which store was this?" "Bellissimo. The one on Fifth Avenue, near." "I know it, Mama. I know exactly where it is. Don't move. I'm coming to get you right now. No, Mijo, it's okay. I'll just take the subway home. Mama. His voice was firm but loving. Stay right there. 10 minutes. He hung up and immediately made another call. Richard? It's Carlos. We need to talk about Bellissimo. Now. Inside Bellissimo Boutique, Madison Pierce was riding high on adrenaline. She'd just protected her store from an unsuitable customer. She bragged to Jennifer about how she'd handled the situation. You have to be firm with people like that, Madison said, reorganizing a display. Otherwise, they think they can just walk in anywhere. Jennifer looked uncomfortable but said nothing. She needed this job. 15 minutes later, the glass door opened. Madison looked up, ready with her professional smile. But it faltered when she saw who entered. Rosa Mendez walked back in, this time flanked by two men in expensive suits. One was Carlos, tall and commanding, wearing a Tom Ford suit that cost more than Madison made in a month. The other was Richard Chen, the boutique's current majority owner and managing partner. Madison's confident smile froze on her face. Mr. Chen. I didn't know you were coming in today. Richard's expression was ice cold. Madison, this is Carlos Mendez. He's my business partner and co-owner of this boutique. The color drained from Madison's face. Co-owner? Carlos stepped forward, his arm protectively around his mother. And this, he said, his voice dangerously calm, is my mother, Rosa Mendez. She's also a shareholder in this boutique. As of 6 months ago, she owns 20% of this business. The boutique fell silent. Every customer, every employee, every eye was on Madison. Madison's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I didn't. I had no idea. No, Carlos said coldly. You had no idea who she was. But that shouldn't have mattered. My mother came in here as a paying customer, with money in her hand, ready to spend thousands of dollars on a dress for her granddaughter. And you treated her like a criminal. Richard turned to Madison, his disappointment palpable. I've reviewed the security footage. I heard everything. Your behavior was not only unprofessional, it was discriminatory. Madison's eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, an excuse, anything. I was just following protocol. I thought. You thought what? Carlos's voice rose slightly, his composure cracking. That because my mother doesn't wear designer clothes, she doesn't deserve respect? That because she has an accent and looks like she's worked hard her whole life, she couldn't possibly afford anything here? Rosa placed a gentle hand on her son's arm. Mijo, it's okay. No, Mama, it's not okay. Carlos looked at his mother, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. You raised me to believe that everyone deserves dignity. You worked yourself to the bone so I could have opportunities. You sacrificed everything. And now that I'm successful, now that I can give back to you, people like her, he pointed at Madison, try to make you feel like you're nothing. The emotion in the room was palpable. Several customers looked away, ashamed they hadn't intervened earlier. Richard turned to Madison. You're terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you out, ironically, the same security you called on Mrs. Mendez. Madison's legs nearly gave out. Please, Mr. Chen, I didn't know. And that's exactly the problem, Richard cut her off. You didn't know. You made assumptions based on someone's appearance. That's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. As security approached Madison, she turned to Rosa one last time, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Rosa, with a grace that stunned everyone in the room, simply nodded. I accept your apology. I hope you learn from this. After Madison was escorted out, Carlos turned to his mother. Now, Mama, let's get you that dress for Isabella. And anything else you want. This is your store. Jennifer, the other sales associate, stepped forward nervously. Mrs. Mendez, I am so deeply sorry for what happened. I should have spoken up. I didn't, and I regret that. Would you allow me to help you find the perfect dress? Rosa studied Jennifer for a moment, then smiled warmly. Yes, thank you. I'd like that. For the next hour, Rosa was treated like royalty. Not because of who her son was, but because she deserved it. She tried on dress after dress. The blue gown with silver embroidery, the one she'd originally wanted, fit Isabella perfectly when they measured it against Rosa's frame. We'll take it, Carlos said, pulling out his credit card. No, Mijo, Rosa said firmly, pulling out her own worn wallet. I'm buying this with my money. From my work. This was always my gift to Isabella. Carlos smiled, his eyes full of pride. Okay, Mama. Your way. That evening, Richard and Carlos sat in the boutique's office after closing. They discussed changes, real changes. We're implementing mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for all staff, Richard said. This should never have happened. Carlos nodded. And I want to start a scholarship program. For the children of service workers, cleaners, janitors, restaurant workers. People like my mom who made this city run while being invisible to people like Madison. I love that idea, Richard said. Let's make it happen. 3 weeks later, Isabella's quinceañera was magical. The blue dress sparkled under the lights. Rosa danced with her granddaughter, tears of joy streaming down her face. Carlos watched from the side, his heart full. His mother had taught him the most important lesson: dignity isn't determined by your bank account or your wardrobe. It's inherent. It's human. It's what everyone deserves. As for Madison, she found work at a different store, but the experience changed her. She started volunteering at immigrant community centers, slowly unlearning the prejudices she'd carried for so long. It wasn't a quick fix. Real change never is. But it was a start. Sometimes karma doesn't just deliver justice, it delivers a lesson. Rosa Mendez walked into that store as a customer but left as a symbol of something bigger, the reminder that every person, regardless of how they look or where they come from, deserves respect. Her story isn't just about a rude saleswoman getting fired. It's about the invisible people who make our world work, the cleaners, the laborers, the immigrants who sacrifice everything for their children. They deserve to be seen. They deserve dignity. They deserve honor. If this story touched you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, treat everyone with kindness. You never know whose mother, or whose story, you're dealing with. Subscribe for more stories about courage, justice, and the power of never giving up on your dignity. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and remember, karma is always watching.